there's so many different ways to do it. That's both a gift and a curse because there's so many different things that can get distracting. And I don't regret anything I've done. It's all worked and it's all worked out well. I wish I would have started buying bigger deals earlier.
Welcome to the Real Freedom Show, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom as we talk about building time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I am your host, Mike Swenson, and if you are interested in starting your real estate investing journey, feel free to check out our website, freedomthroughrealestate.com. Got some great information there, videos, articles to watch for you to get started and educate yourself on your journey. Now, for today's episode, really cool story of somebody that has done real estate in quite a few different areas. You're not limited to just where you live. And in some cases, you bounce around a little bit and you meet different people and you pick up things along the way. And so that's certainly Jordan Moorhead's story. He is our guest today from Louisville, Kentucky, lived in Minnesota for about 10 years, now down in Austin, Texas, investor, have done BRRRRs, run a real estate team. Mobile home parks is kind of where you're at right now. So all sorts of stuff that we get to cover in this episode. Jordan, I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
Why don't you just give us that background story and kind of let us know about what you've done?
Absolutely. So, yeah, like you said, I lived in Louisville. I moved up to Minnesota, was in college for quite a while, didn't finish college, got into the entrepreneurial side of things, started my own small business. Eventually, I got tired of the small business, which was personal training. And I had a couple trainers working for me, but I saw the ceiling and it wasn't where I wanted to be. You know, the ceiling could have crept up slightly over time with a lot of work, but I saw real estate and said, hey, I want to start making passive income. So I bought a duplex while I was still running that personal training business. Then I bought a sixplex while I was still running the personal training business. About 6 months after buying the sixplex, I said, hey, I really like real estate. I want to be more involved. I feel like I could offer a lot that a lot of agents don't have, and that's understanding house hacking and investing. So I got a real estate license. My first year full-time as a realtor, I sold 24 houses. So that would have been my first year. My first full year was 2018. I got a license in 2017. I started investing in 2016. In 2018, I also bought another 2 sixplex properties on the same street as the first one. And then at the same time, I found another one off market and flipped that over to my dad, who was interested in getting in real estate investing, who's also an agent in Louisville, Kentucky, who sold me the other 3. So he still owns that. I do not own those 3 sixplexes anymore. But 2018, at the end of the year, I got in a bad motorcycle wreck down here in Austin. I was actually working on moving back down to Austin. Got in a bad motorcycle wreck, ended up in the hospital for a little over a week, was in an intensive rehab, like an inpatient rehab for about another month. Then I was down in Florida for a while at my mother's house recovering because it's all flat, there's no snow. Went back to Minnesota, was there about another year and a half, came back down here to Austin, kept buying properties here in Austin, and then started doing the BRRRR deal with a partner in Louisville, Kentucky, with the profits from my second house hack that I owned here in Austin. So I've just kind of been working like you said, there's so many different ways to do it. What you think is going to be your forever strategy may not be. I was committed to multifamily. I met Todd Dexheimer. He's there in Minneapolis, St. Paul, at a pizza parlor at a local meetup. It's the Apartment Investors Meetup in Bloomington down there. Saw how well he was doing in multifamily. Around this time, multifamily was super, super popular on all the podcasts, all the books, online, and said, I'm going to get into multifamily. Oddly enough, before that, I had a personal training client who I still talk to today, actually now lives in Dallas. It seems like everybody's moved to Texas. He lives in Dallas. He told me about mobile home park investing probably back in 2015. said, I met this guy, I went to this guy, Frank Rolfe's mobile home park boot camp. And I want to say it was somewhere down here in Texas or something. And mobile home parks are the way to go. I'm going to get into mobile home park investing. You got to learn more about it. He gave me his book from the boot camp, read that book, learned more about that. And in 2019, actually took the MHU boot camp, Mobile Home University boot camp from Frank Rolfe down here in Austin. Didn't do anything with it for quite a while. So if you're paying attention to the timeline, I got started investing in 2016. I took that boot camp in 2019. I owned something like 22 units at the time there. In 2020, I started doing BRRRR single families. We did almost 40 of those. We did 37 BRRRR single family properties, maybe 38. I lose count sometimes. And I didn't buy my first mobile home park till the end of 2023. So you talked about in the beginning here, there's so many different ways to do it. That's both a gift and a curse because there's so many different things that can get distracting. And I don't regret anything I've done. It's all worked and it's all worked out well. I wish I would have started buying bigger deals earlier. So we just bought, like I said, a 31 lot mobile home park. So 30 lots in one single family house in Louisville, Kentucky in November of 2023. The returns are better than anything else I've ever bought. And it was a challenge to find it. And so we bought 31 at once versus we bought 38 over 2.5 years. And we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off, getting these deals together. We ran into a million different problems. We could spend the whole podcast on that, all the problems that I ran into with BRRRR that I could tell you not to do. And I love BRRRR. I'm glad we did the BRRRR, but we didn't do it right a lot of times. And there's some ways that you just make sure you don't run into those same issues.
Yeah, there's definitely scalability issues that people run into with the BRRRR. And obviously, yeah, a lot of people have been very successful at it. A lot of people have figured out how to scale. But kind of to your point, you are honing in on where you're going to kind of put yourself in the future based on what you've done in the past. It's kind of like a funnel. Like you're doing some things, you're learning like, oh, I like this, or I don't like this, or I like how this works, or maybe you get a key relationship in one area that might propel you forward. And so you're slowly getting closer and closer to kind of where you want to be, but it's because of that journey that you know where you want to go. Because you've experienced the pain of your past deals, now you see mobile home parks as that place for your future, but you wouldn't have known that had you not done it. And I think that's the thing is I talk to more and more people who want to get into investing or start investing. It's like, you got to just get in the game and do something to determine what works, what doesn't work. And you're slowly going to adjust and get better and better and find that sweet spot. But you're not going to find the sweet spot just listening to podcasts and reading books about investing.
No, and you're absolutely right. And what I've learned is you absolutely have to get started. You have to get out there and do something. I got advice early on, scale up as fast as you can. Stay away from if these are your goals, maybe don't focus on the small stuff, but the small stuff is easy and that becomes a kind of a curse at some point. So my biggest mistake that I did wasn't that I did any certain sort of asset or didn't do any certain sort of asset class. It's that I didn't pay attention to my goals. My goals were X. Let's say my goals are X amount of dollars in cash flow. And instead, I'm just looking at what's the best deal or what deal can I find rather than does that deal help get me closer to my goals? And that was my biggest mistake personally. I did a lot of stuff that you can look at it on paper and say, Jordan, that worked great. But that didn't get me that much closer to my goals, which were financial freedom. In fact, the 2 duplexes I still have here in Austin have gotten me closer to my financial freedom number than all of those single family properties that I have in Louisville. And then all of those multifamily properties I had in Louisville ever did. So two duplexes. in Austin.
It comes down to kind of that figuring out where on cash flow versus equity, kind of a sliding scale. Typically you might find more cash flow where you find less equity. There's some where there's a balance, and every investor has different goals, and your goals might change. Early on, I tend to find that people want to focus on the cash flow to be able to kind of build some cash flow going, and then maybe they shift towards equity. But other people are like, forget that. I'm just going to go towards equity. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day when you start to get work through that. But once again, you're not going to know that until you get moving into it. And so it would have been easy to say, Jordan, just wait, buy these 2 properties in Austin and you'll be good. But you probably wouldn't have gotten there unless you did all the stuff you did in the past.
Yeah, and I think that I have a perspective that it's backwards. I think you should focus on equity at first when you don't have anything. So I got started house hacking. I had like $6,500 that I had to put down on that first house hack, and I had to cash out the majority of a Roth IRA to even get that money. I had no equity, is the point. I had no equity at that point. So I needed to focus on how can I keep my expenses as low as possible and grow as much equity as possible. Now that I've done that, the equity has started to have diminishing returns. Is you can't eat equity, but if you have this equity, you can then invest to make cash flow. And I think you need to figure out at what point do I want to start turning the equity into more of an annuity stream or cash flow? And what does that look like for me? I had a long argument. You mentioned GoBundance before we got started on this call. Not an argument. I had a conversation with the guy at GoBundance here recently. He said, hey, I just focus on growing the equity, because for me, when I get to the point that I want to turn that equity into cash flow, I'll have such a massive amount that I'll just turn it into cash flow. And for me personally, I'm a little bit opposite now. I just want to get as much cash flow as I can. I don't necessarily care about the equity because the equity doesn't do anything more for me at this point in my life. I've built pretty good equity and pretty good net worth, and this is against like any FI or financial independence, or I want to spend some of it. I'd like to have extra cash that I could spend on luxuries. I kind of subscribe to that line of thinking of, if I'm going to buy things that are frivolous, I want to buy them with passive income. I don't want to buy them with active income. I want to use the active income to plow into more passive investments, or more investments that are either going to make me more equity or make me more passive income.
Even as you explain that, you can hear the journey of your thought and how it's evolved or changed over time. And I think that's going back to that person sitting on the sidelines. Like, that's the stuff you've got to get in the game for. You're not going to come to those conclusions, or you're not going to learn those lessons until you do something. Find a way to get in the game, manufacture your first involvement in investing some way, shape, or form, and then you'll start that journey. Have you ever heard the phrase, you're the average of the top 5 people that you hang around? Well, real estate agents, I'm excited to increase your 5 with you. We're launching the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe to help you get educated and connect with others to build your real estate investing journey, and also to help you along the way as you're working with real estate investors. So come check it out on our website, realfreedom.com. Go to the store. We have a membership, we have a mastermind group, and private coaching to help you stay accountable to your real estate investing goals, and to make sure that you connect with like-minded people to accelerate your progress and to cheer you on along the way. Check it out, realfreedom.com. Click on the store. So talk a little bit about your real estate team. In addition to your investments, launching a real estate team, moving to a different place, launching a team, and growing a team. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, we talked about when I got started real estate investing, I actually hit Rookie of the Year at our brokerage. I almost hit Rookie of the Year in the region. And I think I might have had a good chance had I not gotten a bad motorcycle wreck at the end of October. I was hairs away from it. I was runner up for Rookie of the Region. So I got really involved in how do I help as many people as possible do this same thing, get into house hacking, get started with financial freedom. Because I really truly believe if you don't do something more than just max out your Roth IRA, you're going to be living on the minimum at the end of your life, saying, how can I save money? How can I and you're not having a, not spend too much. Because personally, I don't believe Social Security is going to be around for that much longer. It sounds like it's going to go insolvent by mid 2030s. Maybe they'll print their way out of it, but who knows? Um, so yeah, I'm really passionate about that because I know if I get one person into a duplex, let's just say a duplex is $500,000 here in Austin. I get one person into that duplex, in 30 years, it's likely to be worth around $1 million. And it's likely to be throwing off cash flow of anywhere in the $5,000 to $8,000 a month. So you either sell it, you have that $1 million, or you have another $5,000 to $8,000 a month. Of course, you're going to have property taxes, insurance, those types of things, but that's still a lot of extra money. Almost a replacement of what your Social Security check would have been. So every time we can get somebody involved in that, awesome. And then of course we do help some people that want to buy regular homes, but the majority of them are house hackers, investors. So I got started doing that myself. I had a really good first year. I had a really good next couple years. Eventually I had more business than I could handle. And I had a buddy getting started in the real estate industry who was also doing this house hacking thing. He had 3 at the time, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to come work with you." And I know we talked about it, and that didn't come around right away. But he started working with me. He hit Rookie of the Year the first year, and that was my first team in Minnesota. I actually had my now fiance working on the back end of the team. She has done a lot of administrative roles for real estate teams in Minnesota, and then bigger companies after that. But when I moved down here to Austin, I kind of started that same thing over, just an abbreviated version of it. Within about a year and a half to 2 years, I had agents on my team again here in Austin. Again, you talked about move to Austin. I didn't know anybody in Austin. I knew a handful, maybe 10 to 15 people, because I actually did live down here in 2016 for 6 months. Moved down here, was ready to be down here. Did not plan it well, did not have enough money, had to go back to Minnesota and restart that business I talked about earlier on. So within about 2 years, I had a team. I had one agent, I had 2 agents, I had 3. I think my peak has been 4 agents and 2 admin staff. Right now we're at 3 agents. They are all house hackers. They all have experience investing in real estate. That's a requirement to join our team because of who we work with. And I don't care if you have experience selling real estate. I care that you understand real estate, because I can teach you how to be a real estate salesperson. I can't teach the investor mindset though. Not that easily, unless you're really interested in learning. But my requirement to be an agent is that you're a real estate investor.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you think about a lot of real estate agents, they tend to think of themselves as salespeople, where it's like, I could be selling homes, I could be selling copy machines, I could be selling whatever it might be. And so they think of themselves as a salesperson. So it's like, when's my next commission check? They don't have that mindset of an investor. And so they're just focusing on deal to deal to deal. I'm making my calls to get my next deal, where that investor mindset is thinking about how are we building something over time, building a business, building streams of income, building wealth. And yeah, to your point, that's the harder part, because I work with agents on my team that have sold a lot of real estate, and it's just so hard for them to even think about like how to start investing. When I show them a deal calculator, like here's how you analyze a deal, their eyes gloss over. They don't know how to think about that. And they've been in real estate for 5-10 years and, haven't bought a property, haven't worked with an investor, and just don't understand how to analyze a deal. So it is a different mindset shift.
It is, and I think a lot of it is something that can be learned when you understand the power of it. And again, something we talked about before we got started here is you have just such amazing tax benefits as a real estate salesperson when it comes to investing in real estate, because you automatically get the real estate professional status. Of course, talk to your accountant, make sure your accountant files you as a real estate professional, but that gives you the right to unlimited depreciation from passive investments to offset your active income. So, for example, and again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a tax professional. Make sure to talk to your tax professional. But for example, if you made $200,000 selling real estate and you had $200,000 of write-offs, provided you have, and I learned this the hard way, paid your Social Security, maybe you're on a W-2 from your own business, that kind of stuff. You can wipe away that active income with the depreciation from real estate. So we have unlimited depreciation as real estate professionals. I think that is the biggest benefit for real estate salespeople as real estate investors. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can go make really good money as a real estate agent, but then you're going to get slapped by the tax man. I think in Minnesota, you're 8 to 10% state income tax,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah, and then you've
Mm-hmm.
got 30% from the federal government, roughly. I mean, that's almost half of your earnings gone day one. But if you can reduce that with depreciation from real estate investments and all the other write-offs from real estate investments, you can invest that money and grow it further later on.
I remember that with my first journey. We bought our first property right as the market crashed,
Hmm.
and we stayed in it for 4 years, turned it into a rental, and then bought a short sale and house hacked that. But I remember with our townhouse, we were cash flow even, maybe just a slight loss, kind of depending on the year. But come tax time, we had those write offs. It's different then than it is now, but we had some of those write offs. And then at the same time, the mortgage is getting paid down. And so I remember even when I wasn't in real estate full time, I was like, oh, $300 a month is coming off the mortgage. And on average, couple $100 a month is coming off on the taxes. Even though I wasn't feeling that extra income because we were cash flow pretty even, I was
Mhm.
still building wealth because of that happening, just because we were able to make the cash flow work. And it's that little bit that will continue to grow over time that people just don't think about.
Yeah, and I think that real estate investing versus, let's say, stock investing or ETFs, a retirement account, you're putting it all in VTI through Vanguard. People look at that and they just see the principal grow over time, and they say, "Well, I'm getting 8% in my VTI. That's great." And they say, "Well, you're telling me to go invest in real estate. My cash on cash return would only be 8%. Why am I going to do all that work for that same return?" That misses everything you just mentioned. That misses the loan pay down. That misses the depreciation which comes off your taxes. And that misses the appreciation of the real estate. So when you look at your real estate investment holistically, the same way as you would look at your stock investing, the returns are double a lot of the time, sometimes better, especially when you're doing your own real estate investments. I've seen some of my investments be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% upon sale, way more. My first duplex, just quick numbers, bought it for $182,000, put $6,700 down, something like that. Spent about $15,000 rehabbing the property. I lucked out and I got the siding replaced by hail storm damage, which happens a lot in Minnesota. So I'm in it for roughly 20 grand. I sold it 2.5 years later for $327,000. What's that? 700% return? You know, good
Mm-hmm.
luck finding that in an
Yeah.
ETF. That's abnormal, but not completely uncommon with real estate. Again, like you said, you have to be in the game because some of them might just be 20% returns compound over time. But
Yep.
you can hit those just massive home runs. And I bought that property not knowing that too. I bought that property thinking, I mean, this is an okay deal. It'll work. I thought at the time it was going to be worth 230 after the rehab was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I lucked out. I got that sighting. So again, there was some luck with the storm damage, which again also does happen from time to time in Minnesota. And the market did well, but you have to be in the market. It doesn't mean you can't do other investments, but especially if you're a real estate professional, you have to be investing in real estate. It's essentially practicing what you preach.
Well, and even to your point, mentioning about appreciation, you'd mentioned, let's just say 5 to 8% cash on cash return. Somebody might hear that and think, oh, well, my stock might outperform that. But then if you talk about the appreciation, just for clean numbers, say it was $100,000 house. Now I know you're not going to really find a $100,000 house, but if I'm only putting 20 or 25% down on that, that house appreciates by 5%, right? We hear appreciation is 5%. That's $5,000. But remember, I only put in 20 or 25. So it's
Yeah,
actually
20%.
multiplied by 4x or 5x. So it's actually a 20 to 25% return on my money for that appreciation. And that's not including the depreciation, the tax benefits, the mortgage pay down, the cash on cash, like all that stuff compounds. And 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you might have a step back in one of those areas, but you have all of these things adding up over time. And that's the huge win of real estate investing.
Bigger Pockets actually it's a very simple calculator. It's similar to an Excel spreadsheet, but they spit out these graphs and numbers at the bottom of it after you run a property through their calculator. I've not used it in a long time. I have other spreadsheets I use now, but I remember seeing that and saying, wow, this is a 10% or 8% return, but over a couple years, the returns are high double digits. And this is amazing. So it's good to look at it holistically, like we just mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jordan, so much for coming on and sharing. We talked about a lot of different stuff. You've certainly had a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. For people that want to reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing in Austin and other places, how can they do that?
If you're on social media, I'm very easy to reach on Instagram at Jordan_Moorhead. My phone number is 512-888-9122. And my email is jordan.moorhead@kw.com. And Moorhead is spelled Moorhead. Lots of people put the E after the R, and there is none.
That's the beauty of being a real estate agent is you want to be found, right? So
yeah,
you can find your phone number and email anywhere. So
yeah, it should be very easy to find me. So just Google me and you'll find it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on and sharing. It's exciting to hear your story and excited to see where you grow with more about your mobile home park investment.